Hi, my name is Aaron Hollinsworth. I'm 31 years old, and I do ballet. Ballet is what I'm most passionate about, besides God, of course. I'm starting this vlog series as a way to share my journey, to share my story with people. It's something that I've wanted to do for a little while now, and I just wasn't sure how to go about it. I wanted to give people an idea of my journey in ballet. It's something that as I mentioned, I am very passionate about. It's something that I pursue wholeheartedly, and it's something that I want to make a career. And I think as an adult late starter, there are a lot of challenges that can come out of that, and in that journey and obstacles that you have to face. You know, most people when they start ballet at like 5 years old or 7 years old. And I've talked to some people who have danced professionally, and they say, well, I started late too. And I say, oh, how late did you start? And their response is usually 14. So starting at 29, you can see it's not unusual necessarily for somebody to decide to start ballet at 29, but it definitely presents a set of challenges when looking to pursue a professional career in the field, right? So this vlog is going to be primarily about my journey in ballet. It's going to also be about my faith as a Christian, my faith in God, because that is very important to me, and that is the center of my life and my universe, and a lot of what gives me strength and what drives me and what helps me to be able to pursue my goals in a seemingly impossible scenario or situation. I'll also be talking about some of the other things, just personal things in my life. I'll be talking about maybe family, businesses that I run, just things of that nature. I want to give you guys a holistic picture of my life and, like I said, be able to inspire people and maybe even people be able to relate to my story, and maybe they'll learn some things, and who knows, maybe I'll even learn some things from my audience, as it grows, and hopefully I'll be able to hear other people's stories and be able to see maybe what's worked for them and what hasn't. Dance in general, I never pictured myself being a dancer. I never really cared about dance until one fateful day when a friend of mine, Josh, good friend of mine, he's like a brother to me. He also does videography and photography work, so we're business partners in a sort of sense, right? But he reached out to me about a Facebook post that he saw from a certain man, and I don't know if it was a mutual friend or how he came across it, but essentially it was advertising for a job as a seasonal job as a videographer for a dance competition. And he gave me the information. He figured I could use the money. Anything video, photo related, it's just kind of up our alley, right? So he shared that with me. And I called the man who owned the media company related to the dance competition, and I got the job really easily. It was very seamless, and honestly, like, that's how you could kind of tell it's like Providence, right? Is when something just happens so seamlessly, you don't even really have to try for it, right? So I called the man, introduced myself. He invited me down to one of their preliminary competitions that they were running. I went down there and met him, and after the competition, I said, okay, I'm ready to start working for you. And he was like, all right, you're hired. You start on such and such date, right? So I was flown out of state every weekend for like 3 months, and it was national, right? So and we were on red-eye flights. It was extremely difficult. It was like one of those things where people who worked for the competition, they're like, congratulations, you made it through a whole season, because it was extremely tiring and difficult, but it was so much fun. And within the first week of working for the dance competition, I fell madly in love with dance, and it just hit me like a freight train. It was something that I never expected. Especially at 29, you don't care about it, and then all of a sudden it's like your whole universe, and that's what you want to do. And, from an outside perspective, friends and family, they might think it's like, a phase, or, oh, this is another thing that Aaron wants to do, okay, you know what I mean? Especially, like, I've never been diagnosed with ADHD, but I have friends that say, you probably have ADHD, so you can imagine how people might not take that seriously from the get-go, right? But honestly, it doesn't really matter what other people think, right? And we'll obviously get to that as a whole topic in and of itself, because that's very important to know and to realize. But After the first week, I said, man, I think I want to do this. I think I want to be a dancer. I saw these kids doing these crazy dance routines, everything from hip hop, tap, contemporary jazz, ballet, whatever. And it just inspired me so much. So I finished out the competition season, the 3 months, and I knew that I wanted to pursue dance. And I had a deep feeling that I wanted to pursue it professionally. And I had no idea how I was going to do it. I'm like broke, I'm self-employed. I live up in the high desert of San Bernardino County. There can't be that many, great teachers up there. And if they are great, then they probably charge a lot of money, right? So, my ex-wife at the time, she was giving horse riding lessons, and she came up to me one day after my competition was over because she knew that it was something I was really interested in. And she came up to me and she said, hey, one of my clients, his aunt does ballet, and she's done it her whole life. And I said, really? I said, can she teach me? And she's all, well, I don't know, I'll see. So, the rest is history. I started taking private lessons with this lady. Her name's Lexi. Awesome person. She's helped me tremendously. So Lexi, if you see this, big shout out to you, big appreciation to you, as you already know, I hope. But she just hooked me up with like great prices on private lessons. And honestly, I still couldn't afford it, but I made it happen, because I knew that I had to do it. I just had it deep down. I knew that I had to pursue this. So I took private lessons with her for 2.5 years. By the way, a quick little side note I think I should mention is that at the time when I worked for the dance competition, I knew that I wanted to pursue contemporary dance. That was what interested me primarily. But when I spoke to one of the judges who I worked with at the competition, she said, if you want to do contemporary, you need to do ballet first. And I was like, oh, okay, well, fine. And there are reasons behind that. We can get into that later. But so I pursued ballet. And honestly, I'm so grateful for that. I'm so happy because come to find out, I ended up loving ballet more than I would have loved contemporary. I think contemporary still has a special place in my heart. I'll still take classes. I'll still learn it. But I want to be a ballet dancer now. So, sometimes you just don't realize what's in store for you or what you may actually be interested in until you try it, right? So I started taking these private ballet lessons with Lexi, and I did that for like 2.5 years. And during this time, I just had this feeling like I think I want to pursue this professionally, but it's a difficult scenario to be in, right? Like between 29 and 31 years old, pursuing something new like dance, something so uncertain career-wise like dance, right? Because let's face it, it's not easy to make it as a professional dancer, right? It's very difficult. So especially like a professional ballet dancer starting so late, right? So it's just like, is this really what I want to do? Is this possible for me? I've told people I think I want to pursue ballet professionally, and I've had even people tell me I don't know, that I think that might be impossible. But like I said, I'm a Christian, and my faith is really important to me. And I'll just quote one piece of scripture, which is Luke chapter 18, verse 27 from the NIV translation. And what it says is, "What is impossible with man is possible with God." And that is so true, isn't it? Because, God often moves in the impossible, right? He waits until it's not possible anymore, and then he provides the miracle. That's what makes it a miracle, I think. That's the definition of it. And it's like God won't act. Well, I don't want to say as a full-on rule, right? I'm not trying to be overly generalistic here, but God will often wait to act until it's not possible anymore. Because when it's possible, you could do it yourself. Why do you need God? And then you could take the credit for it even, right? So if God waits until it's impossible and then he makes it happen, well then, only God can have the credit for that one, right? So it's really important to me personally when I'm pursuing my goals to realize that even if things seem impossible to man, even if it's never been done before, it can be done through God. Whether it will happen or not, it's a different story, right? But at the end of the day, I believe that I'm on the path that I need to be on, and I believe that ballet is the core of that path. I believe that this is what God wants me to do. I worked the competition job. I started taking the private lessons with Lexi. That was going really great. But it got to a point where I realized I need to pursue this more than what I'm doing. I need to find a way to make this really happen. If this is truly what I want to do with my life, 2.5 years was enough time for me to really think about it and say, I'm sure that this is what I want to do, right? I had the feeling before, but that confirmation was able to come after doing it for a while of saying, yes, this is it. So I ended up putting in considerable effort and ended up getting in contact with Prince of Ballet Academy in Laguna Hills, California. I contacted a lot of dance studios, and I'll get into that story at a later time, but basically, I got in contact with Prince of Ballet Academy, and the studio manager, Julia Atkinson, awesome person, very supportive. She's the one who I reached out to initially at the studio. She ended up putting me in contact with Ivan Printsev, the owner and director at the studio, and there were a lot of people that I spoke to, a lot of dance studios, and I think I contacted over 200 studios and people in general. Some people said that they wanted to help me, but at the end of the day, there was only one person or group of people that actually took action in helping me, and that was Prince of Ballet Academy. Ivan has just been, so supportive of my goals, and he knows how lofty my goals are. I want to become a world-class ballet dancer. And like I said, at 31 years old, starting 2.5 years ago, that is not going to be easy. Most people do not believe that it can happen, but Ivan has, I believe he's believed. I believe that he's believed. He's made it very clear to me that he supports my goals. He's said, if you have the desire, it's going to happen. So I've never really had anybody else tell me that before, or really express that, even verbally, let alone through their actions, right? And just all of the things that he's done to support me in my goals is just tremendous. And I can't thank him enough for that, or thank the studio enough for that. So, dancers in Orange County, California, I hope that you guys can come check out Prince of Ballet Academy. I have to give that shameless plug there because this is my family. And if you really want a supportive family environment to take your adult ballet classes, whatever your goal is, I understand that most people's goals are not the same as mine, starting as adults in ballet or whatever, but, you need a really good training environment, right? You need a really good training environment that is supportive of you and your goals and will help you to accomplish what it is that you're capable of, or what your potential is, right? And so, of course I would go to other studios, I would take other lessons and classes, whatever. But I think having a really solid home studio that is family-oriented and is just there for you, right? I think that's really important. And I've seen that here with the teachers and everything. So I just want to invite people to follow along with this vlog and to, just hear my story. And, I think it could be very powerful for a lot of people, and it can help people to maybe think more about their goals and think about, what is my potential? Can I accomplish more than I actually think that I'm capable of? Because God can help me to do that, right? God can make it happen. I just think it's really important for us to realize that we have these great stories of our lives that have not been told yet. And just like there are the great stories of the Bible, or just these great stories that you hear about people in history or whatever, that could be you. And chances are there is a great story to be told in your life, right? It's just a matter of whether you're willing to take the risk, whether you're willing to pursue it. There are a lot of businesses that I'm running in my life that are not very profitable, and I have a lot of irons in the fire, and a lot of people think that I live a very unstable life, and I guess in a lot of senses I do from a humanly or outside perspective, but the reality is, as long as I'm seeking God's guidance and I do what it is that He calls for me to do, there actually isn't any true instability there. In fact, I would argue that your life is never more stable ever than when you follow God's path for your life and when you do what He calls you to do, right? So whatever that may be, it may seem risky, it may seem unreasonable, it may seem unstable, but at the end of the day, if God calls you to do it, then you better do it, because if you don't, you're missing out on so much, right? And the Bible says that God can do more than we can ever ask or even think to ask, right? So I've seen that so many times in my life. I've seen the truth to that, where God just has opened up so many doors for me. You know, I met Ivan and Julia 7 months ago, and I have a key to the studio, and I'm able to come here whenever I want and train in the studio space and film videos, and I run a business with Ivan now, which I'll talk to you guys more about that later. So it's just insane and just so surprising in a lot of ways. I shouldn't be surprised at the things that God can and does do, but he still just continues to surprise me. He still continues to catch me off guard and to just pour blessings onto my life, right, into my life. And it's not like I deserve that, because I don't. I don't deserve anything good that comes in my life, right? And a lot of people might argue with me on that, and but my point is, I don't. I'm just this human who's faulty, who's trying to do the best that I can, and I have so many faults and I make so many mistakes, right? But regardless of that, God still continues to pour blessings into my life and bring these amazing relationships into my life and open up opportunities and doors, and I still don't even know the extent of that. I still don't know where all of this is leading, but I know that I'm on the path that I need to be on. And like I said, that path is ballet. So thank you for listening. I invite you to like and subscribe. You just follow along for my journey. And like I said, I'd like to hear other people's stories as well. So as we come out with more of these videos, I'm hoping you guys can hit the comments, send me some messages, reach out to me, send me some emails, and let me know what inspires you. Let me know your story so that I can be inspired as well. And hopefully I'll see you guys down at Prince of Ballet Academy in Laguna Hills, California. Anyways, have a good one. Thank you very much.